who might conceivably report if they see me slipping a packet of bacon down my pants.
Yeah.
But at the checkout lanes, everybody is paying attention to their own thing.
Yeah, they're all distracted.
And I've been in checkout lanes where, in some supermarkets, the girl who is tasked with watching everybody is just, nattering on to one of her colleagues, or she's busy taking 5 minutes trying to explain to some, senior citizen, elderly person how this system works, how to scan. And so their attention is focused, somewhere else.
Yeah, all that stuff.
And
Steve,
since they're not expecting it, I have to wonder just how vigilant they really are.
Steve, thank you. Steve Davis, his expertise. About to talk to Major Pamela Waugh. Your pool, I won't go over the whole thing again because time, but 6 metres by 2 metres by 2 metres.
Yep, and 2 tonne.
2 tonne.
Yep, so 6 by 2 by 2, 2 tonne, Auckland to Kaikoura. We'll appreciate your help. Thank you.
We thought this certainly deserves a mention in Christmas week. The Sallies are short of gifts for needy families in Wellington. Major Pamela Waugh is the National Social Services Manager for the Salvation Army. Good afternoon, Pamela. And this is your annual appeal, yes?
This is one of our major appeals for the year, the Christmas appeal, to get families supported through the Christmas time.
Families struggling more than usual because of the quakes, and you are short of good, cool sort of gifts for teenagers, especially teenage boys.
That's right. Teenage boys are hard to buy for. If anyone's got one, they know that. But they like gift cards, they like iTunes cards, things like that. There's been a lot going on for New Zealand families this year, especially those who are struggling. Housing costs, all that sort of thing has impacted quite heavily on these people.
And this is an age where you're really conscious of not having some of the things your mates at school have, isn't it?
Yes, it is very much about the social inclusion. And for all children, and especially the teenagers, when they see what their mates have got, they see what other families are getting, they naturally want to be part of that, and we also want to give children the good chance to be part of that.
Is there anything else that people can give you apart from, iTunes cards and so on?
Well, they can donate cash if they want to, and that means we can specifically go and buy the targeted gifts that we need. They can give gifts for the mums and dads as well, because don't forget them. Yes. They're quite important. And also gifts across the whole age range would be most appreciated.
All right. And what is the easiest way of doing that? How can people help you most easily, Pamela?
Okay, they can pop into one of our centres, into the Salvation Army Centre in their local area. They can pop into Kmart and put something under the tree there, and that helps, and they deliver them to us. So there's 2 opportunities for gifts.
All right. All the best, and I hope you get a really good, well, we all do, I hope you get a really good response.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for what you do with your time, Pamela. It's great. Major Pamela Waugh from the Salvation Army. People pointing out just before we go that they always do this actually, that a lot of people do not use self-service, not because they don't know how it works, but because they don't want to put checkout operators out of jobs.
Yeah, I was thinking that actually, isn't it sort of serves you right for roboting everything? People lose their jobs and then people are stealing billions of dollars worth because of it.
That's a good point, actually.
I'm a control freak. I need to be able to do my own groceries. I can do it faster and quicker than anyone, better than anyone else.
You can do everything faster and quicker.
I can do everything better and faster. Good on you.
Ali Jones, lovely to see you in Auckland.
Merry Christmas. Thank you, Jim.
Merry Christmas to you, and good luck getting that swimming pool south. Lisa Scott, good luck with your trip north.
Thanks. It's Auckland next and I'll be parking on the berms.
Thanks, everybody. We're back tomorrow, and Checkpoint coming up with Rowan Quinn.
Kia ora everyone, I'm Rowan Quinn. Hi there, Myra. Welcome to Checkpoint on RNZ National. Tonight, Kaikoura businesses say they're relieved tourists are finally returning after tonight's unrestricted opening of the inland road. A New Zealander detained in Bali for importing methamphetamines, hopeful her prison sentence could be reduced from 7 years to 6 months. The Prime Minister, Bill English, announces February 25th as the date for the Mount Albert by-election, but National won't be standing a candidate. Alfred Ngaro, our first Cabinet Minister of Cook Islands descent, gets set to tackle the housing crisis in his role as Associate Housing Minister, and Hungarian actor and socialite Zsa Zsa passes away at the age of 99.
RNZ News at 5. Kia ora, good evening, ko Katrina Bat and aho. The police are investigating a home invasion in Christchurch in which a couple were tied up for 3 hours. They say a Pākehā man described as 30 to 40 years old entered the couple's Harewood home by pretending to be a delivery man about 7 o'clock this morning. Myra Williams reports.
He tied up the husband and wife and some 3 hours later, at 20 past 10 in the morning, left in the victim's blue Toyota Vitz. The police say they have not located the man or the car. They say it is possible he is armed and he should not be approached. The police say the victims are understandably shaken, but otherwise uninjured, and are receiving support. This is Myra Williams.
The National Party is being accused of running scared after its defeat in the Mount Roskill by-election earlier this month. The Prime Minister, Bill English, says his party will not be standing a candidate in next year's by-election, Mount Albert by-election, which will be held on February the 25th. Labour's yet to formally confirm its candidate, but the Leicester MP, Jacinda Ardern, is keen to stand in the seat. She says National's decision not to stand a candidate is very odd.
Regardless of how a political party has performed in a seat in the past, their by-elections are an opportunity to put up a set of ideas and vision, and so to not use that opportunity does certainly strike me as surprising.
Labour's Jacinda Ardern. The Syrian army and its allies have allowed a convoy of 5 buses and 2 ambulances from the rebel-held district of Aleppo to reach rebel-held al-Rashidin outside the city. The report has come from the War Monitor, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The convoy had been held for hours after leaving the Ramusa Highway junction next to the rebel-held part of the city. The number of building consents for houses increased by the most in 4 months in October, pushing the annual number to its highest in more than a decade. Official figures show the number rose by a seasonally adjusted 2.6% on the previous month, driven by approvals for apartments and retirement village units. The number for the year ended October was 30,100, up by 14% on a year earlier and the highest since late 2005. Northland, Auckland, Tauranga and Wellington all issued more consents, while Canterbury's total continued to fall. A Hamilton real estate agency has been ordered to pay $1 million for unlawful price fixing. Lugton's the second company to be penalised for agreeing on a planned response in Hamilton to Trade Me's changed pricing model. Joe O'Brien reports.
The Commerce Commission says Lugton's is one of 5 companies it filed proceedings against for making the agreement. Lugton's admitted it had agreed with the other defendants to pass on the cost of listing on Trade Me to vendors and to remove the vendors' existing listings. In a judgment released today, Justice Heath says the agreement compromised the ability of vendors to negotiate a better price. Last week, Success Realty was ordered to pay $900,000, and a defended hearing is set down for next September for the other 3 agencies, Monarch, Lodge and Online Realty, and 2 individuals. I kirikiriroa, ko Joe O'Brien aho.
The police will start testing wastewater plants in Christchurch and Auckland to understand the prevalence of drug use in a New Zealand first. Checks for methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin and other drugs will be done 7 days each month for a year. Similar testing in Perth this year found 31.6 kilograms of methamphetamine was consumed in the city area each week. Assistant Commissioner Bill Searle says the testing is not traceable to individuals and will not result in criminal charges, but will provide information about how much drug use is happening in the 2 cities. The Quakers say they're delighted they'll be able to deliver flowers to Mount Eden Jail again this Christmas. The delivery has been made every year since the First World War, but the prison had decided this year that it posed a security risk. After calls to reconsider, prison management met with the Quakers this morning and decided to let the delivery go ahead. Quakers spokeswoman Lynley Gregory says the delivery of about 400 flowers to inmates each Christmas.
Some of us have been involved in doing programs within the prison, and people who are on those talk to us about the joy of receiving them and say that for some of them it's the only thing they received at Christmas.
Lynley Gregory from the Quakers. It's 5 past 5. To sport, and New Zealand Rugby has made its moves in attempting to keep 3 high-profile players in New Zealand. The union has tabled final deals for Ben Smith, Israel Dagg and Aaron Cruden and will give them the time they need to make a decision. The trio come off contract after the British and Irish Lions tour in June, and all 3 have received lucrative offers to join French clubs. While conceding New Zealand Rugby will never be able to match the big money bids from overseas, NZR Chief Executive Steve Tew says they've done all they can to retain the services of the 3 key backs.
They all are key retention targets for us. They've all got final offers. They've all had in-depth conversations with both their Investec Super Rugby environments and also the All Black coaching group. They all know we love them to death and we love them to stay, but they've got to make their decisions.
Tew says they're close to signing All Blacks captain Kieran Reid, who's also off contract next year, through to the end of the 2019 World Cup. Meanwhile, Reid has undergone wrist surgery and will miss the first 5 weeks of the Crusaders Super Rugby campaign. The Crusaders hope Reid will be available for selection in early April, which would give him just 7 games before the Lions tour. Reid has handed the Crusaders captaincy over to fellow All Black Sam Whitelock for next year. And the Pakistani cricketers have moved on to, a short time ago, 441 for 8, chasing 490 to win the first test against Australia in Brisbane. 490 would be a record successful run chase in test cricket. That's the news.
A doctor in hot water.
It's not my fault that a doctor come into my room at 4 o'clock in the morning, threatening me, going on about his life problems, how he can't deal with being a doctor.
A lukewarm response to the cabinet lineup.
It's not a demotion in the sense that if we're bringing people through, they can't all be ranked in the same number in the cabinet.
A chilling incident down south.
It's a very dark day at Gore yesterday, and the repercussions of this really being felt through the tight-knit racing community.
Hot topics and hard facts. Morning reports with Susie Ferguson and Guy Aspinall, weekdays from 6.
Met service weather now through to midnight tomorrow. Northland to Manawatu, also Coromandel Peninsula, Bay of Plenty and the Central High Country. Scattered rain at first, possibly heavy with thunderstorms in Bay of Plenty, but clearing from the south this evening. Cloudy periods in Northland tomorrow, fine elsewhere. Gisborne and Hawke's Bay, scattered rain, possibly heavy in the ranges with thunderstorms, clearing about Hawke's Bay by evening and Gisborne tonight. Kapiti Coast, Wellington, Wairarapa, Nelson, Marlborough and Canterbury, fine weather. Bulla to Fiordland, showers with snow to 900 metres in Fiordland, clearing Westland and Bulla this evening and easing in Fiordland. Otago and Southland, a few showers this afternoon and evening, otherwise fine. Westerly gales about the south coast, and the Chatham Islands, a period of rain this evening, otherwise mainly fine. It's coming up to 5:08 and you're listening to Checkpoint.
Thanks, Katrina. We begin tonight in Kaikoura, where tourists are returning for the first time since last month's quakes. After 5 weeks of the town being cut off, the inland road finally opened today to traffic in both directions, and businesses say with summer holidays fast approaching, it will bring a welcome boost to the local economy. Daniel Jenkins lost his house in the Christchurch quakes and moved his family to Kaikoura to start a new life and a cheese business. A short time ago, he told me businesses had already noticed a difference.
It's a little bit of a relief for us here in Kaikoura, and there's a bit of excitement and intrepidation at the same time. So as a business, it's fantastic because people are coming into our shop and we're noticing a few more sales. And I was talking to Wings Over Wales today, and they've booked a flight out to see the whales. So they've got people driving in all the time. So we're just really excited to see people, and it's nice to have people with a bit of energy, and so they're bringing the energy into town and doing a bit of shopping, and it feels good.
So you are seeing a noticeable difference in the look of the town today?
Yeah, I've talked to a few people, and they're noticing about a 20% increase in people coming in. So, and we've got New Zealanders popping in, we've got foreigners, Middle East, Japanese, Germans. So it's a nice, gentle start to the people coming in.
What's the wait been like for you to have this road open again?
It's for us, it's a lot to do with distribution and the way our business works. So we need to get cheese out. So it's been really hard to get a fresh product out, but also getting some ingredients in, cultures and certain bits and pieces. So just the uncertainty that things are going to arrive and not be turned away. And also like friends and family coming in. So we had our daughters leave and it took quite a while to get them back in to get the timing right. So we don't feel like we're going to get trapped if we do leave. And also it's just so nice to have people outside of Kaikoura coming in.
And what would you say to anyone who's still deciding whether or not to come to Kaikoura around Christmas time?
Well, what I would say is if you're coming here to go camping or have a relaxing time, it's probably the best time, like apart from the pressure that we've got, it's probably the best time to be in Kaikoura because there's not many people here, so you have the campgrounds to yourself, you've got the surf to yourself, the beaches to yourself, so the pace is slow, so it feels like a holiday, and just the happiness and joy that is going around is just beautiful. So it feels like it'll feel like a holiday in the 1980s in New Zealand, I would say.
And that was Daniel Jenkins speaking to me from Kaikoura. A New Zealander detained in Bali's notorious Kiribati prison for importing 0.82 grams of methamphetamine into Indonesia may only serve a 6-month sentence with rehabilitation. Myra Williams accepts she was on a bender when she was arrested after arriving on a flight from Brisbane in September. A New Zealand lawyer, Craig Tuck, who's visited Miss Williams for the first time today, told me she was facing a 7-year sentence, but there's a chance a much lighter sentence can be negotiated.
The police here now have the full situation, which is that essentially, and Myra accepts that she was on a bender when she arrived at the airport, that she got paranoid, that she went to immigration. She asked to be returned back to Australia where she was living with her son, and at that point things really unravelled. The situation is that there is still an importation charge on the table. That's in negotiation with the prosecutor and the lawyers. When there's an importation charge here in Indonesia, it's a very serious matter, and the minimum imprisonment is 5 years. So she's looking at 7 years if they continue with the importation. She's accepting a no-news situation. She's accepting that she's got problems with methamphetamine and has had for a year. And on that basis, she would receive just a 6-month sentence with rehabilitation. Now, at the moment, she's sleeping on the floor of a cell in Kiribati in the women's section. So she's been on tiles. Today she'll have some sheets and pillows and some cutlery, but it would be fair to say that she's been treated very well by the staff, but the jail does have limited resources. It's not easy being crammed in with a number of others in a cell, sleeping on the floor rough, essentially.
Can I just clarify with you? You said she's going to be detained until January, but that doesn't mean she'll be released in January, is that right?
That's correct. So she was served papers just to keep her in jail, so it's like a warrant of commitment, if you like, in New Zealand, to ensure that the negotiations can continue and hopefully get some resolution by mid-January. I think it's the 19th, where technically they can hold on to her in Kiribati, but that doesn't mean she's going to be released at all.
And then you would be hoping that you may be able to have that deal, as it were, where she might be able to just have served 6 months and then come home after that? Is that the situation?
Yes. That is the situation, and that's what we're talking about at the moment with the police.
And what does Myra think about that option, that possibility?
Well, it would be fair to say that Myra is on an emotional roller coaster at the moment. She's very thankful for the support of her family. She's got strong support from her whānau back in New Zealand and Australia. It's quite overwhelming for her. She was somebody that was enrolled in a bachelor's program. She was studying, she had a son, and now all of a sudden she's essentially locked down until the powers that be decide what's going to happen to her. So she's been up and down, but generally she's got a great state of mind in terms of things like this happen. And it's just a matter of working through the process.
And is she able to have any communication with her wee boy? Who's looking after him?
Okay, her son's come back to New Zealand, and she is communicating with her family. So there is the ability to communicate, and that's being facilitated right now, actually.
And that was the New Zealand lawyer Craig Tuck speaking to me from Indonesia. The police will start testing wastewater in Auckland and Christchurch from next week to get an idea of drug use in the cities. Similar testing in Perth this year found 31.6 kilograms of methamphetamine was consumed in the city area every week, or 1.6 tonnes a year. Our reporter Sally Murphy spoke with Assistant Commissioner Bill Searle about the testing.
We know that illicit drug use has a significant impact on the community, and by testing wastewater, we're going to be able to accurately understand how much illicit drug use is being taken in those communities, and also give us an ability to benchmark for any future analysis we might do.
Why did you choose Auckland and Christchurch?
So we've chosen Auckland's Rosedale treatment plant and Christchurch City wastewater catchment area for a number of reasons. Firstly, they're obviously two cities in two different parts of the country. One's in the North Island, one's in the South Island. Secondly, the population sizes are quite similar. And thirdly, just they were treatment plants that were relatively easy for us to conduct the testing.
So why this move to do it in New Zealand? Is it because drug use is getting more prevalent in communities?
Well, I think we just need an accurate picture of how high those levels of use actually are. If we're going to take an evidence base to what we do, we really need to know how much is actually being consumed in our communities, and that will help us to come up with the best response to that.
And wastewater will be tested for a week of every month for the next year and will cost $220,000 paid for from the Proceeds of Crime Recovery Act. Well, after suffering a drubbing in Mount Roskill, the National Party's decided it won't stand a candidate in next year's Mount Albert by-election. The Prime Minister, Bill English, announced today that the by-election will be held on Saturday, February the 25th, but the National will be a no-show. Here's our Deputy Political Editor, Chris Bramwell.
Bill English says his party is focused on winning the general election later next year, and in order to do that, he says National will not participate in a by-election in the new year that's in a safe Labour seat. Labour is yet to formally confirm its candidate, but the List MP Jacinda Ardern is keen to stand in the seat. She says she's surprised by National's move not to stand a candidate.
Regardless of how a political party has performed in a seat in the past, their by-elections are an opportunity to put up a set of ideas and vision, and so to not use that opportunity does certainly strike me as surprising.
Do you think Labour will run a different kind of campaign given this?
Oh, look, as one of the people who's put their name in the ring for this, I certainly know that if it were me that were the candidate, I would certainly not take anything for granted. Labour campaigns very much with people on the ground, doing a lot of door knocking and talking to people, and I think people should have an expectation that will still continue regardless of the decision that National's made.
Jacinda Ardern says making sure people actually get out to vote will be the challenge, as by-elections have notoriously low turnout even when both major parties contest them. The Green Party is yet to decide whether it will run a candidate. The deadline for candidate nominations to be received will be midday February the 1st. Atu i te whare pārimata mō te hōtaka o te ahi, ko Chris Bramwell ahau.
The MP who got the biggest promotion in Bill English's first cabinet reshuffle is Alfred Ngaro. The second-term MP has gone straight into cabinet from the back bench and is the only new minister inside cabinet. Mr Ngaro is now the Minister for Pacific Peoples, Minister for the Community and Voluntary Sector, Associate Minister for Children and Associate Minister for Social Housing. I asked the first Cook Islander to be elected to Parliament if he saw his elevation coming.
I was really fortunate that our Prime Minister called me yesterday morning, late morning, and asked me to become a minister. So it's just humbled, but really looking forward to the opportunity.
And you had no idea before that, no hints from Mr English?
No. In fact, he was quite adamant that don't call me, I'll call you.
And you've got quite a handful there of portfolios. I guess the one that's really been in the news a lot in the spotlight this year is social housing. What are your ideas to fix some of the many problems there?
So one of the things that I know that I've been, in fact, it was only just a couple of weeks ago, I was with the Honourable Paula Bennett, now the Deputy Prime Minister, and we're out in Newland, West Auckland, and just saw some of the work that was happening. So it's the collaboration work with both developers and also to the construction team and the community housing providers, the NGO sector. To me, that's the model going forward. It's a collaboration of those key stakeholders making a difference. So community comes in, the government, the NGOs, and our developers as well. And I think collectively what we saw on that morning was, again, there was about 14 to 15 new units, families who were just really appreciative to have a warm, dry home and an opportunity to raise their families. So to me, it's that collaboration approach. I'm keen to put my support as an Associate Minister to that work under the leadership of the Honourable Amy Adams.
Do you accept that there is a housing crisis?
Oh, look, I mean, we've been, we've seen it, the challenges that are out there. I always tell people that, the Chinese interpretation of crisis, from what I've been told, is called opportunity. So while we know that the challenges are there, we know at the end of the day it's around supply. We've got to get more houses built. We've got to provide the wraparound services, for our families as well. And so to me, it's pragmatic, it's practical. Let's just get on and make this happen.
So with that opportunity there, are you saying that conceding there is a housing crisis, that you will be one of the people helping to deal with it?
Yeah, I'm acknowledging that there is a huge challenge for us, and it's complex. It's not going to happen overnight, but it is type of work and the initiatives that we're taking that I've seen as of last week as well with the Honourable Paula Bennett, and seeing the difference that it's making. And look, we're seeing that community housing providers are putting up their hand. They're saying, look, this is the role that we can play. Some of them have different skill sets and experiences that, their government, can't provide, but they can provide, whether it be for mental health or it could be respite care. There are a variety of different with kaumātua flats and units. So to me, that's the sort of work that I think is making a difference. Matanikola, which is in South Auckland, you've got a church, for instance, a Tongan church group who, are asset rich but cash poor, saw the opportunity to be able to work with government to be able to provide housing that was much needed for their community, and now they've just seen the benefits from that. So to me, that's the sort of challenge that we have ahead of us, and just really keen to be part of the team.
You have another role as Minister for Pacific Peoples. What is the biggest issue facing Pacific people in New Zealand?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is that sometimes the stigma that often gets associated. So everyone likes to read all the things that go wrong about sometimes our Pacifica people, but we don't like to sort of talk about the things that go well. And yet I think that we've got a great story to tell. I can see that some of the successes, and one of the biggest focuses, one of the strongest focuses for our Pacifica families is education. When we look at the way that both our achievement levels, NZCA, for instance, for level 2, for our Pacifica has increased. And so we're now at about 65-75% for NCA level 2, your base threshold level to be able to go into any forms of tertiary training. And then you look at your retention and your completion rates, so it's either going into tertiary or university. Those have increased as well. To me, that's a great result. That's the sort of thing that I think we need to continue on. So education is the key focus. The other one I think that's really important is that we still don't have enough of our Pacifica involved in small to medium enterprises. So SMEs make up 70% of our economy here in New Zealand, and we've got a very small percentage. I don't know the numbers, but I know that what I've been told is that we need to increase and encourage more of our Pacifica into the small to medium enterprises to be able to grow their influence, and also to allow that prosperity to return back into our communities as well.
That was new Cabinet Minister Alfred Ngaro. The Auckland City Mission, which is struggling to cope with its busiest week of the year, has made an urgent plea for donations, saying they've been worryingly low in 2016. As Christmas approaches, 350 families are flocking to the City Mission each day in search of food and presents. Our reporter Tom Furley went down to the mission on Hobson Street to see how it's coping.
Joshua, his wife, 2-year-old son and 9-month-old daughter joined the line outside the Auckland City Mission at around 7 this morning.
Yeah, no, it's quite difficult to try and
pretty much get down here before the numbers kind of.
Yeah,
but it's getting really bigger this year. It gets bigger every year, doesn't it?
I noticed that there's a lot of people in cars, like sleeping about like 8 o'clock the previous night, trying to get the spot. So it's a bit of a rush trying to get in there first.
They're just one of the 350 families who the City Mission will help today. Joshua and his wife live on a benefit. He's struggling to find a job as he has criminal convictions while she looks after the children. With $380 of the benefit going towards rent each week, there's not much left over.
Pretty much on a budget every week, and when like Christmas, things like Christmas and birthdays come around, it's pretty hard when it comes to like having to buy extra things, buy food for the kids or whatever.
Trying to keep a smile on the faces because it is a bit of it's diabolical time, isn't it? Christmas.
Past the line and into the 1850s former pub that now hosts the City Mission, there's a hive of activity as 200 volunteers do their bit. Food parcels containing essentials like flour and perishable items like vegetables and meat are collected and carted out to waiting families. Books and toys are sorted into gender and age range so they're appropriate for the children who will receive them. It's the fourth year IRD worker Jazz Edwards has volunteered here and the demand is increasing every day.
Yeah, it's definitely picked up. There's a line it's going all the way down to Wallasey Street, so it's just picked up now. So, but that's just one day, so it's going to be like that for the rest of the week.
The City Mission's regular work with the homeless, providing parcel support and signing people up for wins carries on amid the rush, which includes preparing for a 2,000-person lunch on Christmas Day. Auckland City Missioner Chris Farrelly says financial donations have been worryingly low this year, with urgent help needed to make it through the busy season.
Frankly, just at the moment, we are really concerned about this week. We've got very, very big commitments because we are actually having to buy a lot of the food in. We have extra staff on. So this is a very, very expensive time for the City Mission, and we take this huge leap of faith that somehow, in some way, we're going to make it to Christmas.
The mission says it needs $1.3 million this Christmas, but has only raised half of that amount so far. It's not sure why donations have been low this year, but pinpoints tough times for many and appeals by other charities as possible reasons. But while the challenge of getting through the Christmas season remains, longer-term challenges like lowering the cost of living, particularly rent, are also in Chris Farrelly's mind.
We don't want this to become the permanent way every Christmas. And I'd like to be in a position one day where we don't have this outside. That would be then I know we've succeeded. Success is when we don't have that.
For Checkpoint, Tom Furley.
The Hollywood actress and celebrity Zsa Zsa Gabor has died. She kept her age a closely guarded secret but was believed to have been 99. Born in Hungary, she made more than 60 films but became better known for her string of husbands and love of diamonds. The BBC's Nick Hyam looks back at her life.
Zsa Zsa Gabor may have been a great beauty, but she was never a great actress.
I know everything. I heard the verdict.
It's dangerous for you to come here.
I must take that risk, and so must you.
Her screen career was undistinguished, though it did include camp classics like the truly terrible Queen of Outer Space.
If you must go, promise me you're going to come back to me.
I don't want to.
Her greatest role was as herself, one of the first professional celebrities famous for simply being famous. She was rich, she was gorgeous, she was outrageous, and she ate men for breakfast. Her last marriage in 1986 was her 8th, or 9th, if you include an illegal ceremony conducted at sea.
Women don't even get married anymore today. They just have love affairs. As I was raised in a convent, I thought you have to get married, legalized, which was dumb. But now I just believe myself to live in sin. It's wonderful, girls. Don't get married. It's insanity. You have to become their servant. You have to look after their house, and they cheat on you. Who the hell needs that?
In 1989, she was briefly jailed for hitting a Hollywood traffic cop twice her size. She was well into her 70s, though during the court case she was accused of doctoring her driving licence to disguise her age. By then, her film career had collapsed into self-parody. Here she is with Frankie Howard.
Every time I see, I get lumps in my throat.
But she never lost a certain innocence, nor her wit. As she once said, "I'm a marvellous housekeeper. Every time I leave a man, I keep his house."
Coming up, John Campbell looks back at some of the biggest news stories of 2016. But first, here's Katrina Batten with the headlines.
Labour's Jacinda Ardern has accused the National Party of running scared after its decision not to stand a candidate in February's Mount Albert by-election. Ms Ardern is keen to stand in the seat, which has been left vacant by David Shearer's resignation. The police are investigating a home invasion in Christchurch in which a couple were tied up for 3 hours. They say a 30 to 40-year-old Pākehā man entered the couple's Harewood home early this morning by pretending to be a delivery man. The number of home building consents increased by a seasonally adjusted 2.6% in October, pushing the annual number to its highest in more than a decade. The rise was driven by approvals for apartments and retirement village units. People using the inland route to Kaikoura, which opened for general use today, say the road is in good repair following last month's earthquake. The Quakers say they're delighted they'll be able to deliver flowers to Mount Eden Jail again this Christmas. The delivery has been made every year since the First World War, but the prison have decided this year that it posed a security risk. The police have announced they'll start testing wastewater plants in Christchurch and Auckland to measure the prevalence of drug use there. Checks for methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin and other drugs will be done 7 days each month for a year. Buses and ambulances have begun evacuating hundreds of people from East Aleppo, heading west towards government territory. Earlier, the evacuation stalled after 5 buses sent to take people out of villages near Idlib were set alight. Those are the headlines. Now John takes a look back at the 2016.
Kia ora everyone. After 5:30 every night this week, we are going to look back at 2016, both the year in the big picture sense and also at Checkpoint's coverage of it. Politics, pretty remarkable really. Lots of things we were told wouldn't happen, did. Something came completely out of the blue, and that was John Key resigning. Bill English, of course, is now Prime Minister. Donald Trump became America's next president. The polls said that wouldn't happen. The polls were wrong. The polls also said Brexit wouldn't happen. Of course, we now know it did. And the year wasn't just dominated by politics. There were terror attacks in France. 84 people mowed down by a truck driver driven along the waterfront in Nice. A terrible terror attack that struck at the very heart of France's sense of itself. In Belgium, 32 people blown up and killed by suicide bombers at the airport and also the metro line. Rising British MP Joe Cox brutally murdered by a white supremacist, and a dream team of footballers and their support team killed in a plane crash on the way to the game of their careers in Colombia. David Bowie, Prince, Leonard Cohen, Muhammad Ali, George Martin, Gene Wilder and Ronnie Corbett were just some of the music, acting and supporting legends we lost at home. Ray Columbus, Bunny Walters, also gone. Also at home we had homelessness, such a big story. This year we have covered it at length on Checkpoint. Contaminated water in Hawke's Bay. 8 men lost their lives in a fishing charter accident. More on that later. And we had earthquakes. On November 14, just after midnight, a magnitude 7 earthquake rocked North Canterbury, Kaikoura, Wellington and surrounds. Later that day, as the extent of the disaster was still being assessed, our reporter Alex Ashton and camera operator Bradley White flew to Nelson and attempted to reach Kaikoura overland.
We start our journey in Cheviot, the epicentre of Monday morning's quake. Just out of town in Parnassus, we stopped by the home of Rochelle Jordan.
Pretty scary on the first night, never experienced anything like that. Been through 2 earthquakes, one in Masterton and one in Nelson, and they were quite bad. They were up around the 6 mark, and that was many years ago. But this was really terrifying, you know. We've had a few here after Christchurch. The 6 that we got in the June, it went on for a bit, but it did stop. This just seemed to go on and on and on and just not stop. And trying to get out of the house where everything was falling over, and that was the hard bit.
The family's been living in a caravan since the quake hit.
Yeah, it felt a lot safer in this. It was shaky last night. We had some good shakes last night, but we knew nothing was going to fall on us, so we did get some sleep.
Heading north along State Highway 1, more evidence of Mother Nature's fury. So now we're on the Parnassus overbridge, which is slightly farther north of Cheviot, heading on State Highway 1 towards Kaikoura. You can see here The road has just crumbled away. There's a drop of over 1 metre, and this is definitely the worst damage we've seen so far as we head farther towards Kaikoura. The road's still in use. There's a few cones separating off one of the lanes, obviously, with the drop. And somebody mentioned to me just before, they reckon a lot of the traffic is trucks delivering essential goods to farms who have been without what they need for a few days now. An hour or so farther north, we start to realise the extent of the damage to the roading. We've been driving north of Cheviot on State Highway 1 towards Kaikoura for about an hour now. We're going to stop and turn around because we're not going to be able to get much farther with the state of the roads. If you're watching, you'll be able to see here a huge ditch, probably almost 2 metres wide in some places. That's just fallen out of the road. It's literally peeling back here. We're not going to be able to get much farther. The damage is actually worse that way. What it makes you realise is the effort that's already gone into clearing out these roads. We managed to get here. And it also gives you an idea of just the sheer volume of work ahead of them. As we continued north, we ran into British tourist Kevin Smeaton, who was only just able to leave the area.
I never expected it. It scared me witless. It's not going to put me off. But, you know, is this a new era now? Have the people in New Zealand now got to worry about this for the future?
Along Kaikoura's coastline in the tiny settlement of Oaro, we ran into residents frustrated by a lack of communication.
We've heard nothing, communication, nothing coming in here at all. I know Kaikoura is in a hell of a mess, but there's just, you know, there are other people, and because of no communication, cell phone, everything down. You know, we've got cell phone coverage and that now, but helicopters, hundreds of them going past all the time, but not even a bottle of water, you know.
And we've had, obviously, the engineers working on the road, and we've had the helicopters going around, but you're the first people to actually come and say, how's it going? Obviously, for you need a story, but, we've actually had no communication at all. We felt quite stranded, no civil defence, no communication when, you know, hopefully some ideas, you know, when water's coming back or electricity coming back.
The settlement right on the doorstep of Kaikoura itself, but for the residents living there, it couldn't feel farther. So we're actually in Kaikoura now. You've got the coastline running along one side and the railway on the other side of the road. We can't go any farther because the slip actually blocks it there. The damage is pretty shocking around here. You've got rocks right onto the train tracks. We're going to have to turn around now and head back. But at this stage, you can see why the road is closed.
As we speak, it is still very difficult to get in and out of Kaikoura by road. And the businesses there, as we know, are having a very tough time during what would have been their peak season. Late last month, 8 men lost their lives after the fishing boat Francie capsized as it tried to cross the Kaikoura Bar. 7 men, along with skipper Bill McNatty, died. There were 3 survivors. The men had chartered the fishing boat for around $80 each, hoping to bring home fish for their families. But the conditions were so rough on that Saturday that while McNatty crossed the bar, other fishing boats considered it too dangerous and stayed closer to shore. Tony Wallace owns the Kaipara Cat Fishing Charter Company. He told me nobody should have crossed the bar that day. He told me he had previously warned Maritime New Zealand about Bill McNatty taking risks. He said the deaths were utterly preventable.
I got audited by Maritime New Zealand at one stage, and we were going through the books at my house. And once we finished that, I said to the guy that was looking at the books, now there's somebody on the Kaipara you need to do something about. This guy is going to kill somebody. And he sort of said, oh, yeah, who's that? Oh, well, yes, we've heard the name. We're aware of the name. Previous to that, I had 2 inspectors on my boat, once again going through your books and things, because the books are the most important part, you know. It doesn't matter if your boat's sinking as long as your books are all right. And Bill went past, and I said to these guys, that's the guy you guys should be spending time with. He needs sorting out. He is going to kill somebody. And they just sort of go, oh, yeah, but it's pretty hard to police, and no, it's very awkward to do that. And I said to them at the time, yeah, it'd be just like the bloody boat down south, the Dream Rider. Everybody dies, there's nobody left, so you start suing the bloody wife and ripping to her. So
yeah. Who were you talking to, Tony? Did you say this to Maritime New Zealand? Who were you talking to?
I said it to 3 of their, shall we call them inspectors? Guys that come and make sure that my T's are crossed, my I's are dotted, and things like that.
And this wasn't professional rivalry because you're both operating out of the Kaikoura. This was a genuine and sincere concern about the safety of passengers on Bill's boat.
Yes, indeed.
Can we talk about the conditions on the boat? Now, we don't know what happened in the sea, and so it's absolutely essential we don't jump to any conclusions. But one man who was washed up on shore seemed to have a life jacket on each arm. The two others who were winched in by chopper, there's just uncertainty about the situation with life jackets. Would they have been wearing life jackets coming over the bar in that kind of weather? Would you expect them to have had life jackets on?
I would have made it compulsory. I wouldn't have attempted to cross the bar unless, especially in those conditions. Man, you know, we're talking bloody atrocious conditions. I wouldn't have attempted to do anything near the bar. I mean, you know, we were well up inside the harbour and it was, we only had a few minutes to go, so I wasn't too concerned about the weather once we changed angle, all that sort of, like I said earlier. But in that situation, that skipper, not only should he have been wearing a jacket, but every man on board, without a doubt. I mean, it's just common sense. What's the matter with the man? You know, I mean, Jesus. Yeah, it's bloody awkward, John. It's bloody awkward. Drives me nuts.
What drives you nuts? What is the thing that drives you nuts, Tony?
The frustration of the whole situation. You know, those bloody boys there, they put the total faith in the skipper and he f***ed it up. And he f***ed it up. And I don't know why he f***ed it up. I don't know why he would want to actually go over the bar in those conditions. There's no logic to him doing that. There really isn't. You know, oh, hang on a minute, we'll toss the coin and see if we're ever going to get back. And that's exactly how it was.
Was the weather so bad that it was a coin toss? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Maybe when he went out, it would have been debatable. But when he was coming home, there was no doubt about it. That wind had really got up. He's got a boat that does, shall we say, 8 or 9, maybe 10 knots on a good day. The tide, when it's leaving the bloody Kaikoura out on the heads there, it often gets to 7 knots. So he's coming in against the tide at a surplus of 2, 3, 4 knots. I don't know. And then, with the winds, the tide's still running out, and the wind coming in makes the waves stand up. You know, it's just, just incredible. Incredible that he would even think that. I did hear a rumour that he rang for advice from someone, and that person said to him, go to Australia. It's safer. In other words, stay out. Don't come in. He'd still have to be out there now. Maybe they'd have to get a helicopter and lift his crew off. But they'd be lifting him off alive. He should never have come in. He should never have bloody well gone out. This is, it's so annoying. It's so absolutely annoying.
Are you off to see the cops? Are you going to go and talk to somebody about this?
I feel I have to, because all the people that are talking so far are being too PC. They're being too polite. You know, the fact of the matter is the skipper is the skipper, and he is solely and wholly responsible for the situation. You know, and there were 6 boats down there. Bill was one of them, and he was the only clown that went across the bar.
There was a lot of talk this year about hospital meals. Checkpoint's devoted a lot of time to covering the story. In October, we revealed the final savings from a controversial nationwide hospital food contract would fall at least $110 million short of what was pitched to district health boards. The sales pitch was about money saving. We revealed it was going to be so much less. The contract was awarded to the Compass Group and was initially projected to save between 150 and 190 million over the next 15 years, but it had to be adopted by all 20 DHBs for that to happen. By October, only 6 had done so. There had been uproar and protests around the country about the quality of Compass's meals, which are produced in Tauranga and trucked frozen throughout the country to hospitals and Meals on Wheels customers. During the year, we spoke with Compass itself, Dunedin Hospital patients, and Invercargill Mayor Tim Shadbolt. We dig deep into the papers and the sales pitch. But then our reporter Alex Ashton met Brian Goulding. Brian is a Meals on Wheels volunteer in the South Auckland suburb of Pukekohe. He told us the food he was delivering to elderly customers was so bad he'd lost half of them because the meals were soggy, had decreased in size and were simply going uneaten.
Well, 4 years ago, when I started delivering Meals on Wheels, you go around and you could see the meals in the container, and they were good meals. They were cooked up here in our local hospital, which we've had for years, maternity and old thing, and it's a rehab unit now, and they've always been great meals. And if you want to have a feed before you go on delivering meals because you get hungry just looking at them. And then July last year, late in July, they started. Somebody said, "Oh no, we're going to make them frozen meals in Auckland. We bring them out here." The local people at the hospital and the cooks up there, all they do is bung them in a big oven and heat them up. And when we started seeing them, they come out in packets like that, you'll see later, with the top on. You don't know what they get until they get them home. And the quality has deteriorated so bad that we're delivering just under half of what we were doing in July last year. In August, they'd just dropped off 20 or 30 a month, right down where we used to deliver 18 or 20 on each run. Now we're delivering 7 and 8.
And why is that? Is that because of the quality?
The quality, and people they're not all dying, don't worry about that. The people are just saying, well, no, I'm not eating this rubbish anymore. It's dropped off since the last figures I got here. The people are saying, no, the vegetables, when they're prepared, in Auckland or wherever they're prepared, the vegetables are good. Okay, they put in there, it's the processing of that. They freeze them up there, they bring them out here, they throw them in the freezer up here at the hospital, and all the ladies do up here, big-time cooks, put them in a big oven, heat them up, hot as hell, and we take them out and deliver them. There are certain diabetics that have got to ration their meals out. They have the amount of breakfast in the midday, and then they've got to have a good meal at night time, which is this meal. So they naturally put it in the fridge and then heat it up at night time. Now, chicken and stuff like that, fish is a very rare thing. It's always just meat. There's no variety. The biggest complaints we got today was no variety, and the preparation of the meals is not good. Here's our hospital up here with beautiful ovens, beautiful people. I was in there for 2 weeks, and I know what it was like to eat that food up there.
And the other thing, Brian, just sorry to interrupt you, but the other thing you're talking about was the size of the meals as well. So we just weighed this one before, and it was about 350. What were they before?
Well, when they came over, the meal's always up there. Now, I don't want to incriminate any people up there, but I used to say to them, are these meals as big, when we first started, are these the same size meals as you fellas used to supply? And they said, oh, yeah, I think so. So I got one before I delivered it to the people that I know. I've known a lot of these people for years. I've known them since I was a kid. And I brought it home and weighed it on my little scales there, 700 grams, 650 grams, and all that sort of thing. Now, these ones, I go up there to deliver them a few months ago, and I thought, heck, these are a bit different. So I bring one home, 350 grams, half size. I ring the hospital and say, hey, what's happening? Don't worry, there's plenty of protein. We've had all these examined. There's protein in there and all that sort of jazz. A smart aleck on the other end said, no, we know what we're doing. I said, yeah, well, I've got a cat here. I feed a cat food on the bag. It says full of protein. You know, cat food's got protein too.
So you think the quality's down, the size is down, people are unhappy, orders are dropping off. What do you want to happen?
I would like to see go back to the local hospital here, which is sitting up the hill, and give the people the same meals as we have in the hospital. They cook beautiful meals, not flashes, no luxury living, but good basic carrots, spuds and onions, pumpkin, all that. We grow this stuff here. And they still buy it fresh here for the people that live here. Now, why can't these old people sitting in their homes by themselves, some of them, they only see us people today delivering meals, why can't they have the same meals as if they were in that hospital up there? People are going, that I know of people that are told by their doctor, one particular lady, I think she's in having a hip operation done now, because she has had neighbours and family feed her greens. Her doctor told her, you've got to eat more greens. Eat more greens. How the hell can I? I'm getting Meals on Wheels. Made that decision to freeze the meals in there, and they're not flash frozen, quick frozen like Watties and all that. Whoever made that decision to do that, well, would have an IQ level of a half-sucked aniseed ball, and that's my opinion. So that's not good. It's not good tuck.
One of the most compelling eyewitness interviews we did this year was with a woman called Grace Ann Morrow. On July 14th, Grace Ann, who's from Texas and was visiting the French seaside city of Nice, enjoying a fireworks display to celebrate Bastille Day, was there when a 19-tonne truck driven by a terrorist ploughed its way through the crowd, killing 86 people and injuring more than 400 others. Initially unaware of the attack, Grace Ann filmed the scene and then described what she was witnessing to us.
People were just, it was like this eruption of panicked people pouring out of the narrow streets, you know, just screaming bloody murder, completely confused, terrified. And I didn't even, and at that point I had gotten separated from my aunt and uncle, so I didn't know where they had went. It's kind of inexplicable.
And heartbreaking, because what you see is so ordinary and then so wrong. I mean, in your pictures there are parents pushing babies in buggies. You know, there are little kids, there are people in shorts and T-shirts. This was such a nice family night, wasn't it?
It really was. It was, for this event to happen, it's completely paradoxical to what the night was all about.
And did people know what was going on? Were the people who were running just running because other people were running it? Everyone was just fleeing something, were they?
Exactly. I mean, it was comparable to, this might sound juvenile, but it was a scene from a movie, from like a zombie movie. I mean, people were just running. I mean, you could put a horde of zombies behind them and it would fit the scene, because people were completely running from this opposite direction of what had happened. I mean, nobody knew what was going on. Everyone knew that they just had to get out of there.
What had the night been like?
Oh, it was very positive. I mean, people were enjoying themselves. The way Nice celebrates things is very lively, family-oriented, music-oriented. I mean, these events go on all night. People come out of their houses to celebrate for 12 hours straight. I mean, the whole promenade des Anglais, which is a very popular place to go for events like Bastille Day. There was musicians lined up for the jazz festival. There was little kiosks for giving cotton candy. Kids were buying little toys, and everybody was taking photos, and a lot of people were there. I mean, unsurprisingly, the streets had been closed off to transfer to cars, so that way, everybody could come out and just freely walk about and enjoy themselves.
And the people would have been a mix, one imagines, lots of locals, but also foreign tourists, I suspect?
Yes, exactly.
It's hard to understand, isn't it, Grace Ann? What? One is making assumptions that this is IS, and we know at some level what drives them, but the particular act of driving a truck into a crowd of people who have just had that kind of night, do you even begin to understand that? I don't, and that's why I'm having a really hard time comprehending what just happened.
I've heard people say 30 dead, or how many is it now? I'm sorry, I'm not.
It's more than double that. It's possibly over 70 now.
I have so many friends who live here, and their families. I just really hope everyone I love is okay.
Let's look now at the water contamination crisis in Havelock North that dominated the headlines in August after more than 5,000 people became ill with Campylobacter. The crisis lasted for several weeks after the town's bores became contaminated. The Hawke's Bay Regional Council announced it was prosecuting the Hastings District Council for breaching resource consent, and an inquiry was launched. That's ongoing, of course. In the days that followed, as people were hospitalised and shops and schools closed due to illness and a lack of fresh drinking water, we spoke with businesses who were really feeling the pinch.
My name is Emma Dawson. My husband and I own Cherry Grove Childcare Centre, which is a childcare centre in Havelock North, where we have 80 children enrolled each day. I also own a law firm in Hastings called DK Legal. Both our businesses, both the law firm and the childcare centre, have been affected by the water problems here in Havelock North. I've obviously been off work, my law firm, for 10 days with sick children, and a husband ended up in hospital.
My name is Myra Williams, and I have two businesses with my husband in Havelock North. Origin Earth is a dairy processor, processing white milk into market milk and a range of cheeses and yoghurt. We also have a cafe and tasting shop called Chalk and Cheese. The impact on our business, absolutely significant across both sides of our business. We limped through,
my name's Paul Graney, I'm the village butcher. We've been dealing with this water issue now for going on 12-14 days. It's impacted our business greatly. We've had to not only throw out literally thousands of dollars worth of products that we made, and then found out the water was contaminated. So water goes into like sausages, silver sides, hams, things like that. And we were of the understanding that the water supply was secure. And as soon as we found out that it wasn't, we had to do the right thing for our business and for our customers, and that was to bin that product.
Okay, so Damon Harvey, I'm a Director of Attention Marketing PR. And the impact really has been on staff. So we've had 3 staff down, including myself.
We built our business around small goods, sausages, and we cannot make them until we get the all clear that the water is safe to use. Our machinery runs on water pressure. It's quite an old machine, but it's, up until now it's been very reliable. So we're turning away 30, 40 customers a day, not having the products they need, and that's $1,000 a day.
Childcare centre, we've had a number of staff away sick either themselves or with their children, and our roll dropped to between 20 and 30 children most days of last week.
I'm annoyed, frustrated. The boys turn up to work going, am I getting paid tonight? Wages going through. I've got to reassure them that it's okay, we're going to make it work. And there's just no answer, we get told that our water's going to be chlorinated for the next 3 months. We can't put chlorinated water into a sausage. It's going to taste like a swimming pool.
3 of us have been down sick over the last week, and also family members. I was down for 2 days, a staff member for 3 days, and another director of the business down for 3 days. And then we've also had to look after our children who have been off school for a week.
I am installing a close to $6,000 water purification equipment this afternoon, because it's either make 22 people unemployed, affecting 22 families that are already struggling enough in our region, or it's suck it up and find a way to fight through it.
In both businesses we are using bottled water only. We're not relying on the council water at all until such stage as they can assure us that there's no cryptosporidium or giardia in the water.
I've had no contact from the council. I got 1 letter on Saturday, 8 days late, saying advise your customers of this.
How much longer can you keep going on like this, Paul?
Not long. If we don't get the support back and the customers get the trust back that the water's okay, that the products are fine, it's a matter of weeks, not months.
We have 4 staff at the childcare centre who don't have any sick leave available to them. The government has said that there's financial assistance available to them. However, I've phoned WINS and it looks like they have to take more time off work to visit the WINS office. It's likely that they're only going to receive a loan that needs to be repaid. These people aren't in the financial situation to be able to repay a loan.
All we're asking is to survive. All we're asking is to actually make ends meet and not come out the other end with an unmanageable debt loading.
What would help from them?
all we need is clean water that we don't have to boil.
And that's it from us for tonight. Please join us after the 5:30 headlines tomorrow for more of A Year in Review and some of the highlights from Checkpoint. So from me, John Campbell, Rowan and the rest of the Checkpoint team, have a very lovely night.
RNZ News at 6. Kia ora, good evening, ko Katrina Batten tēnei. The first kura kaupapa Māori in the far north is being closed. Te kura kaupapa Māori o Rangiawhia was told at a meeting in Taipā today the school will shut this Friday. A small group of stakeholders from the school were at the meeting and were told by a Ministry of Education Commissioner of its decision. In a statement, the ministry says the kura has had serious and long-standing issues. It says there is a history of poor interrelationships within the community and kura, and the ongoing disharmony has impacted on students' learning. It also says staffing issues led to no registered teachers being employed. The Mana Party leader, Hone Harawira, was at the meeting and says the whānau is devastated. He says they accepted there had been problems, but had worked hard on a proposal for the ministry to address the concerns.
To the credit of the whānau, they're not the sort of